Well, let's take this back a little bit also into the region. Your Excellency, Minister Ouane, after having heard all this, and you spoke actually also before the session about how this is also affecting sub-Saharan countries now. Please give us in 5 minutes how you see the situation in AFPAC, but also, for example, in what is going on in Libya or what happened in Tunisia is affecting the security situation in sub-Saharan countries. Thank you very much.
Bien, merci. Merci.
S'il vous plaît, le microphone.
Oui, il fonctionne.
Il faut que vous parliez. Non, c'est bon, c'est bon.
Il est bon, il est branché.
Juste parler voilà, dans les micros, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, je disais que je vais d'abord faire un constat. Ensuite, je dégagerai de réflexions qui pourraient servir d'éléments structurants pour donner des types de réponses au constat que je veux faire. Le constat, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, il apparaît très clairement qu'il existe une sorte de continuité entre ce qui se passe dans l'espace sahélo-saharien, ce que vous appelez le Sud-Sahara, l'espace auquel j'appartiens, auquel appartient le Mali, et qui couvre toute cette région qui va du Sénégal jusqu'au Soudan, d'ouest en est, qui fait plus de 7 millions de kilomètres carrés, et dans lequel aujourd'hui se passent beaucoup d'activités qui constituent des menaces réelles à la sécurité internationale. Il y a donc aujourd'hui, il a admis, donc une continuité entre ce qui se passe dans cette région-là et le Nigeria avec le Boko Haram, avec la Somalie, les Chebab, et plus loin jusqu'en Afghanistan. Ce constat, c'est quoi? C'est qu'il est caractérisé par des attaques terroristes, des prises d'otages, il y a divers trafics qui s'y opèrent, trafic d'armes, de drogue, d'êtres humains, notamment. Donc tout ce constat est fait, je ne vais pas beaucoup m'appesantir sur ça. Ce sur quoi j'aimerais insister, c'est de dire, bon, qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire par rapport à ça? La conviction des pays comme le Mali, et j'en parle parce que jusqu'au mois d'avril dernier, j'étais ministre des Affaires étrangères de mon pays, et donc c'est des questions sur lesquelles nous avons beaucoup travaillé. Nous pensons que face à cette situation, qui est une situation qui soulève de nombreux défis et qui sont des défis transversaux, ce qu'il faut, c'est d'abord de privilégier l'action collective et la coopération entre les États de la région. Ceci est indispensable. Et c'est pourquoi le Mali, très tôt, a lancé l'initiative d'une conférence régionale sur la paix, la sécurité et la stabilité dans l'espace sahélo-saharien. Nous avons travaillé sur cette question-là et en novembre 2008, en tant que ministre des Affaires étrangères, j'ai reçu 7 de mes collègues de la région à Bamako. Nous avons travaillé sur cette question. Nous avons dit qu'il fallait d'abord élaborer une stratégie régionale qui donne une vision commune et solidaire avec une identification très claire des défis auxquels les pays sont confrontés et comment ils pourraient y faire face. Ceci nous a conduit à adopter une déclaration politique qui formule cette vision solidaire-là et cette vision commune des pays de la région. Cette déclaration politique a été assortie ensuite par un plan d'action opérationnel qui a été décliné en différentes séquences portant sur les différents volets sur lesquels il faut parler, il faut intervenir en vue d'apporter des solutions à cela. Premier élément. Deuxièmement, nous avons dit également qu'il faut que sur les questions qui sont posées, il y ait une sorte de transparence dans la gestion de ces questions-là. Transparence notamment entre les institutions publiques, les services de sécurité notamment, et aussi les services frontaliers, notamment pour qu'il y ait plus de confiance, pour qu'il n'y ait pas de connivence entre les réseaux mafieux et les institutions publiques-là. Troisièmement, nous avons dit qu'il fallait beaucoup mettre l'accent également sur une sensibilisation des populations à travers la radio, la télévision, la presse écrite et même Internet, faire en sorte que les populations soient réellement conscientes des enjeux qui sont posés, de manière à permettre une synergie entre ce que les États font et ce que les populations doivent faire. Enfin, nous avons pensé qu'il fallait également promouvoir une véritable gouvernance démocratique.
Minister, you have 1 more minute, please.
Et il fallait également donc promouvoir une gouvernance démocratique qui tienne compte des réalités locales notamment de faire en sorte qu'on prenne en compte les diversités nationales qui sont sources de conflits également. Mais sur toutes ces questions, je suis prêt à revenir plus en détail. Merci.
Thank you very much, sir. General Francart, where are the Europeans in all that? What are the Europeans doing in trying to create maybe also more kind of communications between the different actors, between the United States, between the region of sub-Saharan countries? Because, I mean, let's face it, if situations are going wrong in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, or in North Africa, the Europeans are the first ones who gonna face the threat. So please, you have 5 minutes to introduce yourself and give us some enlightening here.
Oui, je suis le général Francart, je dirige une entreprise qui travaille dans l'intelligence stratégique et la gestion de crise. Donc nous sommes en plein dans l'actualité. Ce qui est intéressant, c'est d'abord de prendre conscience de la difficulté qu'il y a à mener des analyses sur l'ensemble des conflits en ayant des visions très restreintes. Car en fait, le véritable problème, c'est la multitude de types de conflits, la multitude de manifestations de ces conflits et la multitude des acteurs qui rentrent en jeu dans l'ensemble de ces conflits. Prenons un exemple, la multitude de risques et de conflits. Il y a des situations politiques qui sont des risques qui sont liés à la gouvernance des États. Ils sont très nombreux, ça a été évoqué, je ne vais pas revenir dessus, mais on s'aperçoit que c'est un problème spécifique à l'heure actuelle. Peut-être qu'il existait auparavant, mais maintenant il ressort beaucoup plus du fait que les risques de guerre entre États est largement diminué grâce en partie justement à l'ONU. Le problème, c'est que maintenant ces manifestations interétatiques sont beaucoup plus complexes à gérer que les manifestations entre États. Le deuxième point, ce sont les conflits qui sont des conflits d'entités qui sont provoqués par des entités qui ne sont pas des entités étatiques, dont l'objectif est soit de s'emparer du pouvoir, soit éventuellement de manière beaucoup plus énergique, de changer carrément le système social et sociétal du pays. Enfin, le dernier point, ce sont des conflits d'ordre idéologique, qu'ils soient d'ordre, idéologique, d'ordre religieux, etc., qui sont des changements, qui sont des conflits dans lesquels on cherche à changer carrément l'ensemble du système. Ça produit un certain nombre de manifestations qui s'expriment de manière assez différente selon les pays. Prenons un exemple. Première manifestation, la contestation venant du peuple. C'est ce qui s'est passé avec le printemps arabe, chose assez nouvelle, qui était peu manifestée auparavant, qui était très rare et qui s'est manifestée, qui peut se manifester soit par une opposition démocratique lorsque le pays le permet, soit par une désobéissance civile, soit enfin par des résistances pacifiques, telles que ça s'est passé en Tunisie, telles que ça s'est passé en Égypte. Deuxième type de manifestation, ce sont des révoltes. Les révoltes, ça peut être du soulèvement, c'est-à-dire une résistance beaucoup plus violente. Pourquoi? Parce que la résistance pacifique ne conduit à rien. Soit enfin une insurrection, c'est-à-dire en fait une résistance armée organisée. Enfin, dernier type de conflit intra-étatique, ce sont les rébellions dans lesquelles peuvent se mêler à la fois le terrorisme et en même temps la guérilla. Et très souvent les deux ensemble qui vont de pair. Derrière cela, il faut bien...
General, 2 more minutes to go, please.
Yes. Il faut bien comprendre qu'il y a une multitude d'acteurs et que le plus souvent, les forces qui sont mandatées pour essayer de résoudre ces conflits sont confrontées à des points de vue, à des acteurs complètement différents, alors qu'ils n'ont un mandat la plupart du temps que sur un seul acteur. On trouve des acteurs spontanés, des mouvements de protestation, des mouvements de violence communautaire entre communautés, des violences émeutières et enfin des violences sécuritaires de la part des forces du pays qui parfois usent de violence envers les autres types de violences. Et puis, lorsque le conflit se prolonge, il y a des violences organisées qui peuvent être soit des violences de revendication, organisées, qui s'organisent avec un parti politique, avec des systèmes militaires ou de milices, des violences de subversion qui sont beaucoup plus graves, qui sont la violence, par exemple, d'Al-Qaïda, la violence d'un certain nombre d'organisations connues,
s'il vous plaît.
les violences de prédation et enfin les violences de répression qui sont également à prendre en compte dans tous les conflits, ce qui est beaucoup plus rare.
Thank you very much. We will get back to some of this as well in the discussion. So I would like to now ask a couple of questions and would like all the participants here to raise your hands if you want to comment. But specifically, let's start with our Pakistani guests. And some of you mentioned the militarization of conflicts, of wars. Imran and General Athar today in Pakistan. Pakistan is one of the countries where you have many special operations going on from the American side. You have drones, you have some new kind of warfare that is taking place in your countries. Are you happy with that? Maybe Imran, you want to start? Oh no, why don't you start? Why don't you start, Imran?
Well, look, in Pakistan, the people who are Pakistan army is fighting and the Americans are fighting actually had nothing to do with terrorism. Basically, they are fighting Pashtuns. Pashtuns have never been involved in any international terrorism. The real enemy was Al-Qaeda. For me, the only way to win the war is if you win the population to your side, win the hearts and minds, and isolate the real terrorists. What is happening is, on both sides of the border, is that military operations and collateral damage are pushing the Pashtuns over to the other side and making it a never-ending war. This will just go on and on, unless there's a change of strategy and winning the population to your side and isolating the real terrorists.
General Athar, but isn't the Pakistani army also fighting with the Americans? Does it mean the Pakistani army is fighting the Pashtuns?
The Pakistani army, one need to understand that this area where we are operating, the northwest of our country and the borderland between Afghanistan and Pakistan has remained subjected to violence since last 3 decades. The whole world was there to wage the holy jihad against the Soviets. It has continued since then. There is an impoverishment, there is unemployment, there is no basic facilities, amenities of life. The area is economically so poor that the governance is not possible. So therefore, we need to see this in this background. What we are doing, trying to regain the control of lost territory. There have been areas where there was a complete loss of a state's right. We have regained that right. We have enhanced our control. We have killed and cleared, but we have always kept the ultimate objective in mind. It's not how many we have killed.
But you are not answering my question, General. I'm sorry. The question was, Imran Khan said that the Americans are fighting the Pashtuns, actually. So since you're an ally to the United States of America, I'm asking you, does the Pakistani army go after Pashtuns?
We are fighting the terrorists. You see, all Taliban may be Pashtuns, but all Pashtuns are not Taliban. So there are terrorist groups which have emerged from there. And there are splinters and non-state actors, the spoilers, who are no one's friends. There are a number of them, and they are there to create the wedge between the Americans, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan. In order to survive, they have to make their own space. So one need to understand that one should not allow the countries to become hostage to one incident or one group in there. So we need to have a collective and a collaborative approach in order to go against
these
groups.
Would someone like to... Do you want to add something? And then I would like to open
I just wanted to clarify. Look, where the fighting is going on is the land of Pashtuns. 15 million in Afghanistan, there are about 25 million in Pakistan. But the tribal belt has always been autonomous. They have never been subjugated by any central power. The British were there for 80 years and they never pacified it. The Mughals, who were a superpower, at their time, for 60 years, there was a fighting in this whole tribal belt. So when you, in the tribal belt, the militants or what you call the terrorists, if they are hidden or if they are part of the living in villages, and then we are using bombing, aerial bombardment, artillery, helicopter gunships, it causes it has to cause collateral damage, and therefore, the people to seek revenge then join the other side. That's what I'm saying. So to win the war, you win the people. There has to be a strategy to win the Pashtuns to your side and isolate the terrorists. General Athar would confirm this, that when the Pakistan army first went into the tribal areas in 2004, the tribal people handed over 240 Al-Qaeda to the Pakistan army. I thought that was the way to go around it, rather than starting these military operations which became counterproductive.
Thanks very much. Dr. Ullman and then Professor Ellenbogen.
Forgive me for speaking with some passion, but Benazir Bhutto was one of my closest friends, as was Salman Taseer, the assassinated governor of Punjab. As General Abbas knows, I have spent considerable time in Pakistan. I've been in the field with their army. In fact, the helicopter that General Kiani, Chief of Staff, loaned me crash-landed in the middle of nowhere in the Hindu Kush. So I'm fairly intimately familiar. The fundamental problem in Pakistan is a clash of cultures between Pakistan and the United States. In my mind, that is not reconcilable. President Jack Kennedy said, the only thing worse than being an enemy of the United States is being a friend. I think that the only solution is a much more rapid withdrawal from Afghanistan by the West to alleviate the pressures on Pakistan, but I think that is a political impossibility. And so to go back to Imran Khan's use of Charles Dickens, this is not only going to be the worst of times, if there was a word, this is going to be the worsterest of times, because things are not going to get better.
So, Professor Ellenbogen, after hearing all this, who are the Americans fighting? And is it really bad to be a friend of the United States of America these days?
No, I completely.
Can you, the microphone, please?
I think it's absurd to say that being the friend of the United States is equivalent to being its worst enemy, and frankly, Harlan, well, it's good and it's provocative, but it's rubbish. But I do want to tell you that you said some things that are not rubbish, and it's specifically the three ideas you had previously, which I hope some people are taking seriously in Washington, and I do agree that integrating the Russians is very, very important, and I think that it's a shame it hasn't happened yet. As to saying that, you know, it's worse and worse and worse, and it's gonna get worse, then I wouldn't understand why you'd suggest your international conferences, which I actually think are a fairly good idea if people don't perceive the U.S. as being colonialist and condescending.
Professor Ellenbogen, who are the Americans fighting? Who are the Americans fighting? Don't get in my nose hairs.
I'm going to answer the question, and I'm getting a little agitated that this is turning into a roast Pakistan.
No, we're going to go to the second round.
Yes, it is. It's turning into a roast Pakistan panel. It pissed me off yesterday when the panel on the U.S.
to the second round,
you want to engage in debate? We're going to engage in debate here, Souad.
We're going to have a debate, yes.
Yesterday's panel on Arab-U.S. relations turned into a Palestinian-Israeli panel.
Do you want to answer the question? Okay, then answer the question, please.
The question is about security paradigms, not whether we're going to roast Pakistan for lunch. So the question is, yes, the U.S. has some confusion in the way it's dealing with these issues, and it is complicated. And it's true that there's collateral damage, and we don't like the collateral damage. And it's always difficult to go after people into areas where, in fact, you have a majority of Pashtuns, Imran, and you do then motivate them to, unfortunately, turn against us. We haven't quite figured out how to deal with that issue, but I do agree with you that it is a serious issue. And so that's the answer. Does that suffice, Souad?
Thank you very much,
You're
Professor.
welcome.
We could have done this much faster. Dr. Mohammedou, I think you wanted to comment on this, and then I would like to get back also to the regional. How does this affect the whole region, also the new way of warfare? Because drones are not only being used in Pakistan, they've been used in Somalia and other countries too. Thank you very much.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. Which is precisely, I think, what is interesting about this discussion, is the larger implications of this. The general mentioned the complexity of this new scene, and I think we've looked at the structural reasons behind that. But I would say there's also behavioral dimensions, which we tend also to forget a little bit. As I said, there's a bit of an acceleration of all of this since 9/11. Specific decisions were taken at the time. The conflict in Afghanistan, Iraq, which we tend to forget and which hasn't been solved as well. And I would say most recently as well, we have the situation in Libya, and we don't know where that's heading, even though it took part in the context of a revolution. What I would like to say about this issue of Afghanistan and Pakistan is that, as it was mentioned, yes, Afghanistan has been called, of course, the graveyard of empires, and certainly there's a very important historical dimension about the complexity of this. But if you see, since 2008 approximately, the introduction of drones has made things certainly more efficient for counterterrorism, and it has led to some successes, quote unquote, in terms of the hot pursuit of operations, but it's also problematic in terms of the legality of it, the issue of extraterritoriality and how it's dragging and how much one introduction and expansion leads to another. And I think this is why the discussion now, as was mentioned, is about withdrawal. How can withdrawal take place if you continuously, it's been about 300, I think, drone operations since 08, 09, including 30 such operations since bin Laden's death in May. This is very factual, this is specific, and we have to address this. In the meantime, of course, as I said, there are other situations that are unresolved. Iraq, I mentioned this, but we can discuss Somalia, and we can discuss the Sahel, as was mentioned. So the complexity of this, my point to you, Souad, is that it takes place in the transformation of the grammar of international security, but there are also specific decisions that are undertaken and are consequential as such.
You know, let's go to the point of the new kind of warfare. Tom, President Obama is using more drones than previously President Bush used to do, and I mean now we have Somalia, we have other parts of the area of the region. Do you think that this is the way to go in future? Is this the future of how you're going to make the world secure?
I think it is both the way we should go and it's the way we're going to have to go because of resources. You know, what happened in Afghanistan, of course, is we've had mission creep. We've gone from counterterrorism to counterinsurgency and put 100,000 forces on the ground from the U.S. side, not to mention 40,000 plus from a combined coalition beyond that. So what the drones enable us to do is to minimize, if not prevent, the use of actual U.S. forces on the ground in some of these places beyond Pakistan. But it's also a lot cheaper to do this. And if you have an airplane that goes down, you have to send in 3 helicopters worth of soldiers to pick them up. You also have to stage a lot more resources there for individuals who have to make forays into a country. So I think we're going to see this. We're increasing the number of drones that are out there. We're putting them in different parts of the world. They are effective. They are controversial. But if there are safe havens in the world that nations are unable to control or unwilling to control, then we certainly have, in some instances, a right to go into these places and to kill the individuals who are targeting the United States or our allies. And I do think this is the way we should go, and I think it's the way we have to go simply because we can't have the overwhelming footprint on the ground, and we simply don't have the finances to back it up.
Thank you very much. You wanted to add one fact, even though we speak about Pakistan right now, so no problem.
Talking about what the U.S. has done in the last. Under Bush, there were 80 special ops in 8 years. Under President Obama, there have been 180 in 2.5 years. So when people criticize the government for not reacting, I'm just saying there's a difference. That's what I wanted to add.
Well, let's, General Athar, after having heard all this, I mean, Imran Khan says it doesn't work. It's creating even more radicalization. The American gentlemen think that this is the way to go in future. What is your take on that? Does it work or does it not work? Does it help you? Do the drone strikes help you to fight terrorism?
I think the drone strikes need to be seen in a perspective and the long term also. They may be giving some dividends to the striker, but at the same time, it is seriously affecting the space of maneuver which is required by Pakistan military to go and achieve military successes that are sustainable. The drone strikes completely jeopardizes that. There is a huge anti-US sentiment in the country on the issue of drone. We are operating against these constraints. Our concerns and constraints must be given due weightage because we have to sustain our successes. A military success which is not opening for a political option is no military success. It is going in circles. So therefore, we consider them highly unproductive and counterproductive, and in long term, they are jeopardizing our achievements, military as well as political.
Thanks very much, General Francart. From the European perspective, what do you think? Is this the way to go, or?
Contre ce qui semble apparaître à travers ce qu'il dit, c'est que les drones sont un moyen de résoudre les conflits. C'est une erreur totale. Les drones ne sont que des moyens militaires qui permettent aux militaires de remplir une mission qui leur a été donnée par le politique. Et ce qui compte, c'est bien la mission qui a été donnée par le politique aux militaires. C'est ça qui est beaucoup plus important que l'utilisation de tel ou tel moyen. Les drones facilitent bien sûr les opérations militaires, permettent d'évacuer plus ou moins le nombre de morts que pourrait causer justement l'absence de drones, mais moi je suis convaincu que le problème n'est pas de disposer de drones ou de ne pas en disposer. Il est évident qu'en disposer facilite les choses, mais ne résout pas les problèmes malgré tout, car les problèmes sont avant tout d'ordre politique.